to all peoples, we should not lose sight of the fact that the oppression and the suffering of 4 million Africans in southern Rhodesia is particularly offensive to the dignity of Africa. Particularly offensive to the dignity of Africa. That Africans, 4 million Africans, specifically here we're talking about this region, even though we know it's taking place in other places, that this is an effrontery unto the dignity of what Africa is. You see? 4 million. And so while Africans are being in servitude and being held in bondage by racist colonialistic governments, you have other people in other parts of the world, black people like ourselves, who think everything is fine. They done made it. They got a little material worldly thing and Babylon done buy them out. And they forget about the other brothers and sisters who's fighting and crying out for freedom in other parts of the earth. We shall not rest until our brothers and sisters are free likewise. You not free until your brothers and sisters are free. That's what His Majesty stands for. And I'll go on further. Although it is particularly offensive to the dignity of Africa, the United Kingdom government, which government? The United Kingdom government. Who you call the United Kingdom? We typically call that England. England? Is that an African government? Is that an African government? That's a colonialist government, huh? An imperialistic government? White people, right? The United Kingdom government, which has constitutional responsibility to lead the colony of Rhodesia to majority rule. Now, how did England get authority to have anything to say about majority rule inside an African country? Or an African land, because it even wasn't an African country, because they never called themselves that. Those borders were arbitrarily drawn at the Berlin Conference, when all the European powers came together, 18 something or other, and sliced up Africa. You see? To majority rule, except for a declaration to apply sanctions, has so far failed to put down the rebellion in Rhodesia and restore law and order in that strife-torn country. Everything they're trying, they're holding on hard. They don't want to let go. They want to stay where they are. The recent resolution passed by the Security Council of the United Nations, who we look to and respect based upon the principles of which it espouses, not because of the corrupted world leaders who push up themselves into the United Nations and sabotage the United Nations and make it ineffectual by their colonialist mentalities and their imperialistic mentalities to maintain their colonial powers in new form, in a modern day form. So these individual countries, which are European countries, try to destabilitate the United Nations, even though the foundations and the principles are based upon righteousness. His Majesty says, even though the word is the word, unless the people have the will to carry it out, if people lack the will to live up to the word and to actually carry it out, the word means nothing. If the will is lacking to carry it out, especially when that trust has been placed upon you to carry it out. The recent resolution passed by the Security Council of the United Nations recommending economic sanctions against Rhodesia. That was the result, economic sanction. Even though it did not satisfy African demands. It did not support African demands. It did not satisfy African demands and should be fully supported and implemented to quell the rebellion as clearly seen, established as threatening international peace and security. So we see that colonialism and imperialism, primarily the point being colonialism, it affects the whole world. It threatens international peace, international security. It threatens humanity's very survival. Peaceful survival anyway. Because people can survive, but they will survive in confusion. They'll survive in madness. They'll survive in sickness, and they'll survive in doubt. You see? But they'll still survive. Rastafari? All right. Excuse me. The recent resolution passed by the Security Council of the United Nations recommending economic sanctions against Rhodesia, even though it did not satisfy the African demands, it should be fully supported and implemented to quell the rebellion which has clearly been established as threatening international peace and security. We hope that the measures so far taken will have the effect of making this illegal government realize that the policy that they have embarked on will only lead to disaster and make them consider their unattainable position and resort the way of sanity and reason. What is sanity and reason? Give the people back in their country. Because if you don't give it back to them, they're going to take it from you. Because it's theirs. And that means they're going to fight you and drive you out and kill you to restore what was taken from them. Because you killed them to take it from them, so they ain't going to feel no way to kill you to take it back from you. Right? Drastic measures needed. Following the resolution adopted by the recent Accra Summit Conference of the Organization of African Unity, we must renew our appeal to all nations not to recognize the illegal white minority regime in southern Rhodesia. His Majesty is asking, appealing to all nations. That's what it says, appeal to all nations not to recognize the illegal white minority regime in southern Rhodesia. Because what happens if you recognize them? That means you're saying they're legit. That means you're saying that they're right. You see? And that they have a right to subjugate millions of Africans and to kill millions of Africans in a quest to attain the property and the possession and the resources of the Africans. The conference should once again call upon the United Kingdom government to employ drastic measures beyond economic sanctions to crush the rebellion. You see, even His Majesty was still dealing with the British people, even though they're trying to portray themselves falsely, like they govern in the area. His Majesty is still showing them to do the right thing. More than what you call yourself dealing with. Even though he know that they are legally involved with the whole situation. I'll show you the wisdom of His Majesty. As we have already pointed out earlier, the main task of this conference is to discuss the implementation of provisions